And you are listening to episode 30 of SCW, the Wrestling Podcast. You're listening on youtube.com, Steve Chats Wrestling, hashtag SCW. Make sure to subscribe right now. And of course, you may be listening via SoundCloud. That's SCW, the Wrestling Podcast. Make sure to hit that follow button right now. I'm joined by the one and only Mr. James Steele. James, how are you feeling this afternoon?
I'm very good, thank you, Steve. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Looking forward to talking about pro wrestling once again. And WWE have had the draft in the last week, and it's been a very eventful week in wrestling. We had Battleground last weekend, where it was kind of the last show with Raw and SmackDown under the same roof. We've had a very different week, I feel, with Raw and SmackDown this week. A lot of changes and some very exciting things to talk about. And we're going to analyse the draft and see how it's played out that first week and kind of our feelings on it. Is it working? Is it going to work in the long term? What do we think of the fresh rivalries, storylines, maybe potential pushes? Is there enough top stars? So without further ado, James, should we start with Monday Night Raw?
Yeah, let's do some Raw Revisited.
I think we should indeed. Well, I'll tell you what, first off with Raw, before we say anything, there was a new video package, a new theme song for Raw. Kind of had a bit of an old school feel about Raw when I saw that video package, which I thought was very good. What did you feel with it?
Yeah, it had that kind of Raw is War and the war zone look about it, didn't it? I really liked it. The new set looked amazing. It was fresh. The red ropes. Obviously, I know we'll talk about SmackDown, but they had the blue ropes. So I know one thing we were very kind of particular on was the fact that both brands, if they're going to split, need to have their own identity, and Raw's certainly done that.
Do you feel that Raw, I mean, we can do the identities of both shows and perhaps compare and contrast, but I mean, the announcers were actually almost very old school, very like the early 1990s, were kind of around the actual stage where people come out rather than being around ringside. What did you think of that change with the Raw announce team?
Yeah, I think it again. It just makes it that bit different. You know you haven't got them all sitting ringside where 9 times out of 10 someone's going through a table, and I'm guessing at big events they will have them ringside. But the only question mark I had was every time they went to the commentators they were standing up, and I don't know why that was, but again made it different. And if we're talking about the commentators as well, Corey Graves on Raw. Obviously, we've only ever really heard him on NXT, and what a transition! Like straight in, no issues in my opinion with how he commentated during the night.
No, it was seamless. I actually thought Raw was very strong all through from start to finish, and honestly, the teamwork of Graves, Saxton, and Cole, I think, really worked well together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, in comparison with SmackDown, and I really like Mauro Ranallo, and having JBL on there, we know JBL was very he's got a lot of information to tell the listeners and the viewers. And having David Otunga, the only issue I had with them three, they seem to overlap quite a lot, and it seemed Mauro didn't really have a great deal of time to get his words in because the other two were too busy, you know, talking all the time. And where the other three on Raw, it flowed a lot nicer.
Do you think that will come better over time? I mean, the thing with SmackDown as well, we can look at that announced team, and of course, we quite like our what culture. John O'Clock is very popular with King Ross, and sometimes the information isn't always correct from JBL, unfortunately, but he certainly does put a good spin, I think, and he's very entertaining to listen to in the broadcast booth at times. Ronaldo, like you say, not really always had his chance to get his point across this week, but certainly is the best by play-by-play of perhaps the lot of them. Maybe him and Graves is perhaps still the dream team in many people's eyes. David Otunga, for me, he's still very green and perhaps has got a lot to learn. But do you feel that there was some marks of improvement this week? I mean, he has done a couple of SmackDowns in the past where, I mean, to be fair, perhaps wasn't coming across very well. I remember at one point he actually compared, I can't remember if it was Jimmy or Jey Uso said, if anyone could beat AJ Styles, that could be the guy to do it, and had the same sort of criteria. We didn't really get as many silly comments as that this week, but what do you think of Otunga? Do you think he actually has what it takes on the SmackDown booth?
I definitely with time, yeah. I mean, it's early days. I think the same was said about Byron Saxton when he moved on to Raw. It was a few question marks and probably still is some now. But he's, again, a bit like Byron Saxton. He will grow into the role, and the chemistry between the three will work over time.
Definitely will indeed. Well, I mean, we look then and say that we discussed Raw. SmackDown had their own video package as well, had their own staging. The thing is with the SmackDown sort of Titantron area, I quite liked it because it was very blue, but it was missing a SmackDown fist. Now, are we as disappointed as we should be that it wasn't there?
Uh, I didn't think the actual set for SmackDown was that much different to what it is usually. Maybe the entrance ramp was a bit bigger. That was probably my only thing that I noticed. But the actual Titantron or the display that they have on the front of the entrance now, I mean, essentially they are the same. I think Raw has now got a big kind of arch that goes over the top as well. Um, so the key thing is, if one of them was going to stay the same, that's fair enough. But they needed to be different, and I think they've established that straight off the first shows for each one.
Definitely. I think that makes a mark then, and we turn around and say, right, okay, we are getting something different. Because of the fact that maybe Raw had a lot of the changes and SmackDown perhaps didn't have as many changes, is that probably what's put a bit of emphasis for people to immediately take a new connection to Raw rather than SmackDown this week, before the shows have even seen the talent in the ring?
Yeah, I'd say so. And that when we look at what talent is available, Raw's definitely got the stronger roster, mainly because it's got the bigger roster. Um, but to compensate, it's a bigger show and a longer show. So um, I think the sets have definitely helped, and Raw seems a lot fresher from the kickoff.
It certainly did. And I mean, the thing is as well, we had the same sort of thing with both shows, starting with the general managers with their rosters and talking to the rosters about the future going forward. And I mean, we looked at the Raw roster, and this is where you say about the size of the rosters as well. Is SmackDown's roster a bit thin? Because, I mean, with SmackDown, they all could fit around the ring apron on three sides. On Raw, they all had to stand on the top of that ramp and the entranceway. Is there a little bit too many people on Raw?
Possibly. I mean, we didn't see everyone, and like they've already announced, it's not kind of going to spoil the show. But Brock Lesnar's going to be there next week, so that's going to take up a chunk of time, and it'd be interesting to see what they do with him because obviously him and Randy Orton are facing each other at SummerSlam, separate shows. But saying that, SmackDown made it work with him being on Miz TV, so it the sizes of the rosters, yeah, definitely, and I still think there's probably one too many titles on Raw compared to SmackDown. Um, but yeah, because we still got the cruiserweight divisions come into it as well, which again is going to crowd that roster, and some of the guys probably at the bottom of the card aren't going to get as much time as they probably hoped.
No, I would say that as well. I think that they're definitely going to be. I still am not entirely sure. I believe Raw has superstars, and I believe that SmackDown has main event. Now, if I am incorrect to that, then someone please in the comment section let me know that I've got it the wrong way around. But I'm pretty sure that's the way. But I imagine that definitely with the lower card people of Raw, they're going to be on superstars a lot of the time. I
Mm.
can't see the Jack Swaggers of this world, apart from when they're in Oklahoma, getting a shot on Raw because it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Now, I did a video on this already on the logos. What are your thoughts on the new logos? I mean, for me at first, I hated the Raw one, but I must admit, seeing it on the actual show in the arena on the practice, it grew on me a little bit more. And I must admit, I now am more of a fan of the SmackDown logo as well. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I like both logo. Again, it's a fresher look, and it's not. SmackDown's probably a bit similar to the previous one, but like we said before, Raw's one is very kind of old school look and does remind me back of the kind of Attitude Era with the Raw is War and Warzone with the second hour, which they used to do, which it's got that kind of look about it.
It certainly does indeed. And another question for you, James, because of course one of the first things that was brought up on the Raw show this week was, of course, a heavyweight championship needs to be brought into the Raw brand because SmackDown has the WWE Championship, or now the WWE World Championship seems to have changed its name again this week, which we will come into what happens with that on that show a bit later on. But with Raw, they've introduced then the WWE Universal Championship, which I'm very happy to hear that they're going to have their own championship. It's a new championship. I actually like the idea. I think it's fresh. It's going forward. It's exciting. And if Raw, for example, had won at Battleground and this had been put on SmackDown instead, would again the emphasis have been more on SmackDown rather than Raw? Is this these little touches of freshness and new things of what are we making Raw feel like it was perhaps? Well, we haven't discussed really what was the better show, but for me, I felt Raw was the better show. Is this one of the reasons why?
Potentially, yes, because in my opinion, all this does is kind of devalue the WWE title that Dean Ambrose is holding. So, had it been ran the other way, it probably would have had the same effect, or at least given a bit more emphasis to SmackDown, like you said. So, For me, it's kind of like, well, yeah, you've still got that main title there, but we're just going to create another main title. And with the roster that they've got, it's only going to elevate that title. Although it's got no history, they'll be able to create something new there, which SmackDown going live, they could have probably done with that more than Raw needed it.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Coming back on it now, I always said that I thought Dean Ambrose needed to win, but now I kind of feel that I would have liked SmackDown to have had that championship because they'd have had a chance to create a new legacy, and maybe that this belt, then the Universal Championship, might have not been seen as the biggest title, might still been seen as the B title, but. I don't know. I just kind of have this feeling already the way that shows have panned out that they're already going to make the Universal Championship seem like it's more important. But let's hope
Mm.
that that's not going to be the way going forward in future. But I mean, we look at Raw then, and I think the difference between the two shows as well is that we, like you say, we didn't get to see everybody on Raw, but SmackDown seemed to showcase almost everybody. There was only American Alpha who weren't really on the show on SmackDown, and they were said that they were going to be on next week's episode. So I mean, that gives you a reason to want to tune into SmackDown Live next week as well, because you know you're going to see a great tag team that you perhaps you thought you were going to see on this week's episode. But we'll touch on Raw first and what the show was for Raw. We got announced then that Seth Rollins was going to be involved in the final match to determine this first champion. We are going to have two fatal four ways to determine the number one contender, or could be facing Rollins for this championship belt. So we're going to get two fatal four ways, and then we're going to have a sort of final match between the two winners, and then the winner of that faces Rollins at SummerSlam. So the first match we got was Cesaro, Rusev, Kevin Owens, and Finn Balor, which was a 20-minute match as well. A fantastic effort on Raw. We see Finn Balor get the victory over Rusev with a coup de grace, which is a double stomp off the top rope onto the sternum of the opponent. I thought it was a fantastic match. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, to open the show. I mean, when they announced that, you kind of knew Finn Balor was going to be in the mix, and I just thought it was a great match. And as we go on to talk about Raw, all of the matches, or the main matches at least, had good time allowed for each match, which again, I know there wasn't a lot of kind of promos and kind of backstage interviews or anything like that, but they utilised the time really well during these the top draw matches for Raw on Monday.
They certainly did indeed, and do you know what? I want to go through. I mean, I think the card was placed very well, and we're not going to go through card order. So, I mean, do watch the show of Raw. You need to watch it this week. But we had the second one, which was Jericho, Sheamus, Sami Zayn, and Roman Reigns. We see a spear on Chris Jericho for Roman Reigns to get himself in the main event to face Finn Balor. Another quite lengthy fatal four-way, but another great match as well. And the thing is with these matches, where we've never seen these sort of matches and not done very often, to have two of them on Raw within an hour of each other, it felt kind of special.
Yeah, definitely. And I was pleased that they'd done it this way round, so that the two winners of them would go on. I think it was, for me, I wanted Finn Balor to win his one, and I wasn't 100% sure that he was going to win it, but he did. Um, I thought Roman would win his one, and he did. And rather than make it so it's a fatal four way, or it's a I won't say a six-pack challenge, because that's eventually what we got in on SmackDown. But rather than having a large multi-man match to declare one winner, which can be a bit scrappy in places, they done the two fatal four ways, which were both fantastic matches, and then finished it off with a one-on-one match, which was, it's not, like you said, it's a bit fresh and it's new. It's a nice way of doing it, and you had two faces, or one tweener and maybe two tweeners. We don't know yet, but squaring off in an epic main event.
Definitely indeed. And what were your thoughts with Roman Reigns and Finn Balor as a main event of Raw? I mean, do we think that would actually be a main event pay-per-view match somewhere down the line? Have WWE given a match too quickly away here?
Possibly. I mean, yeah. I think if Roman probably hadn't done what he'd done and got suspended, um, these plans could have all been completely different.
They,
But it is what it is. They seem to, although I've read some reports where they're saying they're going to put him for a lengthy losing spell. Roman Reigns is. I can't see it myself. They wouldn't have made him win that first match. So if they wanted to ridicule the guy, they would have made him lose that fatal four way. So in my opinion, I thought it was a great match. I think because it's that first new Raw, if we're going to call it that, the new era of the new era for Raw. Um, as what culture have been saying. then yeah, I mean, a great way to end the night.
Certainly indeed, and Finn Balor picking up the victory once again with the coup de grace once again. And I must admit, there was a point in it that thought, oh, Roman Reigns is going to kick out with this, and it's going to really look bad on Finn on his first night on Raw, that his finisher's not going to be putting someone away. And then the 3 count hit, I was absolutely shocked, and I must admit, I thought so pleasantly surprised. And what a main event we're going to have then at SummerSlam. Is it too early for Finn though to be in the championship picture, or is this exactly what we need? Someone put straight to the top as a new star out there. Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, a match we know is going to steal the show. And it's really deep down, even though perhaps it seems quite quick with Finn Balor on the main roster, it is a worthy main event, isn't it?
I think it's going to be one of the matches of the year. And I'll put this prediction out there now. I think we're going to see a double turn at SummerSlam, because I think Finn's going to be part of the Balor Club, the club, whatever we're going to call it, going forward. I think he's going to get help. I think there'll be the double turn. He'll be a heel. Seth will turn face. That's my prediction early doors.
I like that prediction. Do you know what? I hope that happens as well, because Finn actually, when talking to Roman Reigns backstage before their match, he came across quite cocky, didn't he? Let's be fair. I mean, Finn's wished Roman good luck, and Roman said good luck back, and Finn said, "Well, I'm Irish. I invented luck," and Roman said, "Well, I'm Samoan, that's enough said." Well, it clearly wasn't in the match, but I mean, looking at it, Finn Balor didn't come across as a squeaky clean face. He almost felt kind of like maybe, well, there's a bit of a cocky side here to Finn Balor, and maybe, just maybe, there could be a heel side coming down the line, like you say, the Balor Club. I mean, we've all been crying out for Rollins to become a face. I think Finn Balor would make sense to be a heel as the Balor Club. I think really we could actually do with a Roman Reigns heel turn as well, so maybe we could get a clear reshuffle on Raw of the faces and heels in time going forward. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it could definitely happen. I mean, with Finn Balor, they don't need to do it because he's already got the following. It's not like he's in Roman Reigns' position, or he's got, a minority at the moment with a backing. So he could turn him, or he might not. I'm not saying what I've predicted will definitely happen. But for me, there's just a bit of edginess from Finn Balor, and I think to utilise the club and to keep that going, because there's been some tweets that the club's going to grow, and who's coming into the club. Oh, the Balor Club's still going on. I mean, it was on the Titantron when he came out, so I did hear rumours that they dumped that kind of name brand, whatever you want to call it, and that they weren't moving forward with it. But it seems strange that it's still going ahead on his entrance. So for me, yeah, I'd just watch this space on that.
Yeah, definitely indeed. Looking at the Women's Championship match, I mean, that was brought forward for Sasha Banks to beat Charlotte and get the tap out victory in the new Women's Champion. The rumours were suggested why this match was put before SummerSlam, that actually more people would see it on Raw than they would at SummerSlam on a pay-per-view event, and they wanted Sasha to have her moment with as a bigger audience as possible, and this is potentially why we got that match so early. Do we expect the rematch, though, at SummerSlam?
Expect that at SummerSlam, and then I think there'll be a win for Sasha Banks again, and I think then Nia Jax will get her push on the main roster.
I think it could happen, definitely. We're going to come on to Nia Jax very shortly indeed, but just to quickly touch on the Sasha Banks-Charlotte match first. A great match on Raw. We saw a little bit of tribute to Eddie Guerrero there, getting Dana Brooke chucked away from ringside. We see 2 flips over the top rope to the outside. I mean, really, this is a strength of women's wrestling that shows that it's going places, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. And do you know what? Then flip. We saw there's kind of she jumped through the turnbuckle, didn't she? Sasha Banks to fly into Charlotte, landed on her neck somehow. It was like her body was going over the back of her. I don't know how she got up from that. And credit to her for carrying on and not showing any effects on her shoulder or her neck. And then Charlotte's one off the top to the outside. Again, Charlotte's been amazing, and that women's division has gone up mainly because of her. But the people around her, like Bayley, like who else we got in? Sorry, in SmackDown.
SmackDown, we've got Becky Lynch and Natalia.
Becky Lynch, Paige. We've got top women wrestlers in WWE now, and again, good amount of time given to that match. Again, probably a 4-star match, I'd say, for Raw.
Definitely indeed. Another thing coming back to Raw as well, we see some squash matches. Nia Jax being one of them, beating an unknown Britt Baker, and clearly, like you say, she's going to be going places in the future on this roster. And I like the fact that the squash match was used for her. Another person getting the squash match was Braun Strowman beating James Ellsworth, who actually got interview time, saying that he hoped that he could do the miracle. And it seemed that the commentators just laughed at Ellsworth, really, thinking you got no chance with Strowman. Strowman sporting a new look as well, seems to be all shaved up the sides there. Just got hair long at the top and going down the back, winning with a reverse choke slam. Nia Jax winning with what I like to call the Hogan leg drop, but I don't know what WWE are calling it, so it's just a leg drop at the minute. But what are your feelings with these squash matches? Do you think they're a good way going forward to elevate superstars, and rather than actually squashing your lower card talent?
Well, for two people like them, I mean, they're going to be the monsters, so to speak, of their retrospective, respective divisions that are in the women's division and the main men's division. That they're going to brutalise people week in, week out, I think, until they start moving the way up the card, and then we'll see a feud of some sort. I think Nia Jax will probably get up the card quicker. Mainly because of the number of females that there are in that division. But Braun Strowman, he'll slowly go through people, and we'll have a few feuds in the middle, and then I could see him definitely being up there. He's someone who Vince really likes, supposedly, and he's that kind of big heel that has always been famous in WWE history.
Certainly, indeed, and it'll be very interesting to see where certain people are going to be heading towards SummerSlam. Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns is a very interesting topic as well, where he might go towards at SummerSlam. We touched there on Reigns before there, but rumors going around it could be Cesaro, it could be Rusev. He might not be in the card at all. Now, I can't see that last one happening because, I mean, they're going to want to get the buy rates in there. And despite the fact that Reigns might seem like he's being punished at the minute for this wellness policy, it really doesn't seem. It would seem like a stupid thing he's not on the event. Who do you see? I think that Cesaro would be actually a worthy competitor and definitely would work well with this shoot sort of style gimmick that's going on, where he's unhappy with his position in the card. Maybe WWE are rumored they're going to elevate and use that momentum Cesaro has created from that shoot interview and put it into storylines. What do you feel with this?
I think if we're going to talk about Cesaro with what he's doing, yeah, I mean, and to lose in the Fatal 4-Way, so it's taking him out of that title picture for the time being. He needs someone. I'm just not sure whether it's Roman at the moment. It really depends where the characters are going. Only time will tell if that develops. With regards to if I'm going to put Roman against someone, I mean, I said to you, Braun Strowman potentially, but I think it might be a bit too early for them. But just off the top of my head, if we're looking at heels for him to fight, if that's the way he's going to go, Jericho's there. Kevin Owens, if they wanted to do something fresh with him, there's a few new rivalries that could kind of develop there with heels. What we do know, and I kind of like this about Raw with the kind of interviews after matches, and there was a couple before. They interviewed him straight after that match, and he said, I hope that Finn Balor wins because I want to fight him again. So is that a seed that's been planted for the future? Potentially.
It certainly could be, and be very interesting to see what happens. And there's still lots of storylines to go beforehand. There's no reason why they can't find a way that Reigns can't insert himself into the match. But I, for one, hope that doesn't happen now, because I now really am excited for Balor Rollins. It seems quite an interesting matchup to see. But we move on to look at the rest of Raw very quickly, and not much more to mention really. But I mean, New Day's kind of promo was a letdown this week, unfortunately. But thankfully saved by the club attacking the New Day, and that seems to put a seed in for SummerSlam, potentially for a tag team championship match there.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the right move with the club. Make them look strong. They can go around and do that to anyone. And if they're going to try and build the club or the Balor Club, however they're going to do it that way.
Definitely. And you said about the Balor Club there, tag team championships, Universal Championship, one night. Interesting.
Could very well happen. That's why I think it would. I think the New Day have done their time now. They've pointed out they had the celebration on Raw. that should now give an indication where them titles should, to freshen that whole division up, that it needs a change. Because if you've got the the club holding the belts, then it creates new rivalries. And we've got Enzo and Big Cass, who eventually people are going to want to see as tag champs. That would set up a nice feud for them, I think.
It certainly did, and they actually beat the Shining Stars on Raw this week. Of course, they didn't beat them clean, though. There was an interruption. We see R-Truth and Goldust going around doing this Pokemon Go. It seemed to cause a distraction for the Big Boot for a Big Cass to get the victory. Was that a bit of a bad way to see that match finish, or was it kind of just a bit of comedy, actually quite entertaining to see for once?
I would have liked to have seen a cleaner match with regards to how it finished and get them to. But what I think that done was just place a new rivalry with. Well, it gave Golden Truth something, because them and the Shining Stars will probably go on to feud from that now. So it gives something for them to. Enzo and Cass, they don't need a particular feud at the moment, I don't think, because they'll come out and their mic work will do all they need to do.
Certainly indeed. And last off, Neville defeating Mr. Irrelevant. Of course, that's apparently what was given to every NFL last draftee, and that's what's been given to Curtis Axel as their Mr. Irrelevant. The Red Arrow for the victory. I think clearly they're building Neville, and he's going to be perhaps the face of the Cruiserweight division when it starts on Raw.
Yeah, I was pleased to see him back in the ring. I think he's done some live events maybe, but it was really good to see him back in. He doesn't look like he's suffering at all anymore, so his ankle looks good.
Yeah, it certainly does. We'll look at SmackDown then quickly. We started them with a Battle Royal after we knew 5 of what you said, the 6-pack challenge for the #1 contendership for Dean Ambrose's WWE World Championship. We got named 5 guys, which were from Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, John Cena, Dolph Ziggler, Baron Corbin was one, and Bray Wyatt was the 5th member. We got a Battle Royal, which unfortunately really seemed like a job as Battle Royal, didn't it, to get that 6th spot, which for me really was the real low point of SmackDown, because it really kind of highlighted already the differences in the rosters. When you want to see an opening match and you've seen such a quality Fatal 4-Way match start off on Raw, and then we get a jobbers Battle Royal, really, to determine #1 contender. I mean, thankfully, we got what I thought was a creditable winner in Apollo Crews, because he is someone that could be elevated a little bit on this SmackDown brand, potentially at least to a mid-card level, but he got the opportunity to be in the main event of SmackDown. Was you happy to see him get the win?
I was pleased that he won. I predicted at the beginning, I thought, for me, just with a balance of faces and heels on the 6-pack challenge, I thought it was kind of going to be him or potentially Zack Ryder, which would have maybe been a push too far for Zack, I think. If I could have picked one who I felt needs it most, it probably would have been Alberto Del Rio. We're looking at a former champ there, like heavyweight title holder, and yeah, he needs somewhere to go, and I'm not sure where at this stage. And what was interesting, I know Randy Orton's already got his match lined up for SummerSlam, but he wasn't even in the match, and they said, "Oh, the rest of the roster will take this." So seemed a bit strange. The Miz obviously wasn't in it. I don't know why, but yeah. So there was a couple of question marks there. But I mean, who did you think was going to win it, Steve?
Well, I must admit, I kind of thought Del Rio originally, and then once I saw Del Rio go about halfway through the match, I thought Apollo Crews or Zack Ryder, like yourself. But I mean, for me, I kind of thought Apollo Crews seemed like the likely one, because he's the new era of the fresher blood. So I was thankful to kind of half get that prediction second time round correct. But I mean, Zack Ryder had a nightmare in that Battle Royal. A couple of botches there. I can see then maybe the Hype Bros is definitely going to be the way forward for him for the time being, because I can't see WWE giving him more of a high profile role if he's going to keep making botches like that. But speaking of Alberto Del Rio, apparently, it's called to ringsidenews.com, he's got a clause in his contract that he's signed with WWE back in September last year that allows him an out if he's unhappy in the company. So while WWE is making big money with the promotion, they aren't exactly doing anything with him, which I mean we can all agree with there. Del Rio can make big money working in Mexico and Lucha Underground, and can do so by working less dates. TNA did show interest in him, but he did actually put TNA down while doing PR work in his tour of India recently. As noted, Del Rio has not been happy with the relationship situation with Paige, as the two have been drafted to different rosters in the WWE Draft. So speaking of Alberto Del Rio, will he out?
It would surprise me if he does, because a bit like what we'll go on to talk about at the end of this episode of SmackDown, there's always a chance that your kind of career can turn round. Zack Ryder's a good example of that. Always seemed to be on the cusp of leaving WWE because he weren't getting the opportunities. Um, and then he won the IC title, which was one of the biggest shocks of last WrestleMania. Um, what happened at the end of SmackDown? What happened at the end of Raw? Um, on the flip side, you have got cases where it doesn't quite work out and people do leave, like Damien Sandow, people like that, and Cody Rhodes. So I don't know. I saw that article about that being in his contract, and it surprised me as well because they needed someone like him to target the Hispanic audience. So for them to put something like that in kind of leaves them a bit open, which is silly. Because I rate him as a wrestler. I just don't think they've utilised him the right way at times. And obviously I can't even remember what they were called now when they put him, Sheamus, and that together. League of Nations. It ruined a lot of them for a period of time.
It certainly did, and it's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, Rusev seems to be built back up on Raw with the United States
Already, yeah.
Championship. Yeah, it's Sheamus and Del Rio that need the help, so it's going to be very interesting to see what goes forward. But we got a few returns on SmackDown, didn't we? We see Heath Slater crying and saying he wants his shot on SmackDown, that they should sign him. He's shocked that he wasn't drafted to either show. Said that he was the hottest free agent. Shane said that he was looking at the hottest free agent. It wasn't Heath Slater, though. It was Rhino who speared him. Rhino on SmackDown. What are your feelings on this? I was a big fan of Rhino back in the old days, but I'm not sure if I'm as big a fan of seeing Rhino in 2016. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree. He hasn't changed a bit either, has he? He looks exactly the same. Not that I want him to have a different haircut or anything like that, but it it's the same equivalent as if they'd brought back who's the one being linked with coming back, the ECW original
Tommy Dreamer, would that be?
Tommy Dreamer. It'd be the same as if he comes back. It just Rhino's probably actually a peg up on Dreamer, but what I think is frustrating is the fact that you have got people in NXT who could have made the step up in someone like his place. There's talent out there who could have been in his place. A couple of names I just mentioned, Sandow, Cody Rhodes. I don't know why or whether WWE actually talked about the brand split ideas well in advance to these people who they let go, because they could have been well utilised now.
The rumour has it that the WWE made the decision in May, I've seen according to allwrestlingnews.com today, and they actually spoke to Daniel Bryan about the general manager's position during the same month. So
Wow.
it was confirmed in May, which is interesting because I believe that the cuts were made in April. So I don't know if these guys perhaps regret leaving, or maybe Rhodes might regret leaving now, but it certainly is interesting to see what happens. But I still think that they could end up back one day, both of them, but time will tell. But another guy coming back is Shelton Benjamin, and that was confirmed on SmackDown in a small video package. There are rumours he could be coming back to team with American Alpha. Now, personally for me, I'd like to see Charlie Haas come back for one-off appearance and see the world's greatest tag team against American Alpha. What would you like to see? Do you think that trio could work together, or do you like my idea better?
I can't really remember Charlie Haas that well. I remember them as a team, but I just remember them. They were with Kurt Angle.
They were, yeah, for a team
Yeah,
angle.
yeah, exactly. Um, what do you do with Shelton Benjamin? He's a great wrestler. I haven't seen any of the stuff that he's done. Has he been in Ring of Honor?
I believe, well, recently he's been in New Japan.
Right. Okay.
Recently.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen him wrestle for a very long time, probably since he was back in WWE, and um, it's going to be interesting. But from what I've read, he's as good, if not better, now than what he was back then. I don't think he's that old either. I think he's maybe mid-30s, something like that, which apparently is quite a prime age for wrestlers nowadays. I'm looking forward to seeing him back and seeing what he can do. And like you say, where they place him is going to be interesting. The thing with American Alpha is they've got to where they are on their own. They haven't needed anyone else, and they've got that following already. They don't. Whereas you've got someone like the Shining Stars who need Carlito probably to come back and bow them out and get some praise from the crowd, or some heat in the right way. I don't think American Alpha need it. They'll have the same reaction that Finn Balor had.
Do you know what? I 100% agree with everything you just said. I think some fantastic points made there, and I can't add any more to it. I think you're bang on the money, personally, saying that. And I think American Alpha will become, if not the top team in WWE at one point during their tenure, for different reasons. I mean, New Day and Enzo Picasso more mic work and gimmicks like that. These guys are more on the wrestling aspect, and really, in theory, they actually suit being on Raw more with the current workers and wrestling style currently on Raw. But I think American Alpha are going to be big-time players, and I agree they don't necessarily need help. As for Shelton Benjamin, I think that he will be in the mid-card. I'd like to see him get a go at the top, especially if he's meant to be better than what he was before. But then I suppose it is a new era. It's time to push the new guys to the top. So, I mean, for me, I think in the long-term vision, we're going to see AJ Styles against Dean Ambrose for the title, but we'll have to wait and see when that will actually take place. But, I mean, looking then back at SmackDown, we had the women's division pretty much all thrown to us out in SmackDown. We saw everybody, including Eva Marie, who had a very interesting video package. It seemed like they've done that to perfection. She's going to be hated as much as ever with her new video package, it seems, coming to the ring. But we see Becky Lynch beat Natalya. I think we'll get a rubber match somewhere down the line, and then we see the likes of Alexa Bliss, Naomi on there as well. So I mean, all the women came out onto the stage and had their little say. Do we think that that's a good thing? We're getting exposure for all the women on SmackDown.
It was good to have some exposure. I mean, I hadn't really seen the NXT girls that came up. More so Alexa Bliss and Carmella. It sounded very scripted. That was my thing. Whereas Naomi, she sounded like Naomi. That's how we know her. Do you know what I mean? That seemed more shoot, although it's not, obviously. The other two, it was all very kind of, it didn't work for me, that segment. I liked it in what it was trying to achieve was that Eva Marie, who they must be really big on backstage, because she's hated by the crowd. I've never seen her wrestle, or have I? No, she done some matches, didn't she? Was she involved in the WrestleMania match? Wasn't she on the pre-card?
She was, yeah, for the Total Divas.
Yeah. So, I mean, I haven't really seen her ring work. You might be able to elaborate on that, but you know, they've been clever with how they've booked her. She didn't need to say anything on the mic. She came out and they had that massive voiceover going on, sounded a bit movie star-ish. It worked.
It certainly did. And what do we think with Randy Orton and The Miz? I mean, we had Miz TV, which, to be fair, was a bit awful, but Randy Orton came in and saved the segment and then had a match together. We saw the RKO is coming out literally out of nowhere since he's come back up. Are they really now actually trying to make this a thing?
I think they are, yeah. And because there's nothing going to be determined at the end of Randy versus Brock, it'll be interesting to see. That for me is probably one of the most unpredictable matches on the card for SummerSlam, because no one will gain anything from it. My money might actually be on Randy Orton at this stage.
Oh, interesting. I must admit, as much as I like the sound of Viperville, and there's no enhancements needed, although he has been suspended for the welfare policy twice before Randy Orton, but my money's still on Suplex City at the moment. I think Brock will come back and have a vengeance, but I do think if Brock decides to leave WWE in the near future, then he's going to start losing some matches. So I agree. It's not as one-sided as it seems. This could end up being a bit more finely balanced than one perhaps realises at the moment. This could go either way.
Is Heyman going to be there? That's another big question, because his contract seems to be up at the moment.
It does, yeah. I mean, from what I'm aware of, I believe he is going to be back for SummerSlam, but nothing is confirmed at the moment, so be interesting as it does play out. Then to finish off then SmackDown, we had then the main event, then the six-pack challenge, and Dolph Ziggler picked up the victory, pinning AJ Styles, who was the number one SmackDown draft pick, with a super kick, which has not finished the match since Shawn Michaels retired. So what are our thoughts on all this? Is this now going to be an opening match for SummerSlam, or is this actually going to be given it some creditable build? Dolph Ziggler versus Dean Ambrose, the champion at SummerSlam.
It was a big shock. I was not expecting it, and especially when there was finishing moves coming out of nowhere, to borrow Randy Orton's pun. yeah, it seemed like everyone was getting hit with vinegar. AJ come off the rope, hit Cena, um, and then Dolph Ziggler comes out of nowhere. It was baffling, but with regards to SummerSlam, it's going to be interesting to see where they place that.
It very much is, and I hope it's going to be given the respect it deserves. But for me, I can only see it as a filler. I'm sorry to say it to everybody, but I don't feel that this is going to be the overcome where Ziggler finally gets his shot. I feel that this is a one-time thing, and I think Ziggler's going to lose. And I think that the rivalries with John Cena and AJ Styles will fill out. Randy Orton would have had his match with Brock Lesnar, and then we're going to see the card really take shape from there.
Yeah, yeah, potentially. It's either going to be right to kick off the show in the first match, or it's going to be kind of third or fourth, like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I hope it's going to work out all right. But the thing for me with SmackDown this week is we saw everybody. Do we think the show will be stronger in future weeks when we see actually one-on-one matches and tag team matches?
Yeah, I think once the stories start building in certain areas, then they'll utilise the top stars. I think because we've seen them all and we've thought, oh, is that it? I think once you start having specific storylines and feuds, then hopefully from there, SmackDown will grow as a brand. And with these additions that they put in, I mean, Shelton Benjamin, could he be? I'd place him in with The Miz at the moment. That'd be something new and fresh.
I think it would be kind of interesting to see. So let's see how it all works out. But I think it's safe to say that this draft on the first week has worked, and we enjoyed it, and we're excited to see where it's going to lead from here.
Yeah, 100%. Really enjoyed both shows. Raw, just a touch more, but I was pleased with the end results. I mean, it was new, it was fresh, and we've got Finn Balor and Dolph Ziggler moving forward.
It certainly is indeed. It certainly feels like WWE are going to try and build some new stars up and certainly give opportunities to those who've deserved it in the past. Finn Balor, definitely a new star on the horizon. Dolph Ziggler, someone that definitely given an opportunity, should have been given a chance to hit that brass ring a lot sooner. But that's all we've got time for anyway for this particular episode then of SCW, the Wrestling Podcast. Definitely given a thumbs up on the whole for the WWE Draft so far of how it's played out with Raw and SmackDown. Be certainly more interesting, definitely with storyline developments going forward next week. We've got things to look forward to as well on Raw and SmackDown with the returns of Brock Lesnar on Raw, American Alpha making a debut on SmackDown. Certainly very interesting stuff indeed to see, and hopefully as time goes on we're going to see this as a big success with some new stars at the top of the card, some definite changes made, and definitely some more relevancy all through the WWE product. But that's our thoughts anyway, but what are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section. If you are listening to Steve Chats Wrestling, hashtag SCW on YouTube.com, please subscribe to the channel right now, like and share the video as well. If you're listening on SoundCloud, SCW the Wrestling Podcast, hit that follow button now and make sure you keep up to date with each and every time I put a podcast on this channel. Of course on YouTube, all breaking news is on there as well, so do make sure to go and check out Steve Chats Wrestling, hashtag SCW right now. But until then, enjoy your week of wrestling, and thank you for joining us and listening. Hope you've enjoyed it. Leave any comments in the comment section, and please subscribe and take care.